I realized that if I was to keep taking cross-sex hormones, I actually would be trapped in the wrong body.
Hey everyone, I caught myself another one. Super excited today. So before I move forward, remember like, subscribe, comments are really important. They help also this video. YouTube is not liking me these days, bringing these conversations on board, but these are very important conversations that I cannot get without you supporting this channel. So with that, I have Chance today, and thanks so much, Chance, for coming on the show and having time with me to talk about your story. So with that, why don't you introduce yourself and then we'll move on.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Bud, for having me. My name is Chance. I am a female to male detransitioner. I was on cross-sex hormones, testosterone, for over 14 months before I stopped taking HRT and identifying as a transgender male. I've been in recovery from gender-affirming healthcare for over 10 years.
Wow. Wow. This is great. First off, I want to thank so much for reaching out to me. It means a lot to me. These aren't easy things to talk about, especially because it did work out for me 32 years in transition. And you know how I feel about it. I don't think it is for everybody. And I think too many people are being sucked into this space who should have never been put in this space. So I appreciate you building a bridge with me and also putting your story out there because some young person will see this. And I think too many young people are getting caught in this situation. So with that, tell me a little bit about the backstory, if you could, like how you sort of started, or maybe you could tell us your age as well and when you started to do the transition.
Ye- Yeah, so I was older when I transitioned. I was in my early 40s.
Okay.
And really up to that point, I hadn't really even known much about transgenderism. And, I had been part of the lesbian community. And over time, I had seen people leave the lesbian community and transition,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a real commonplace like it is today. It was just more of an occasional thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I mean, I hate to tell you this, but I got sucked in by the internet, specifically YouTube. I initially, had just been on YouTube, and for the first time ever, I found out like all these females were having double mastectomies, which they were calling top surgery. And because I had been a person who had always been very self-conscious about my chest, I thought, oh, this is great, and then, the more I researched it, I was like, oh, my narrative is exactly the same as many of these people, in terms of how I grew up and how I felt,
Yeah.
and my experience being a lesbian, a butch lesbian specifically.
Yeah.
And so, next thing I know, I'm going to a gender therapist, one that is affirming, of course. And I hadn't even intended to ever even go on hormones. And the next thing you know, I went through, I don't think, but 3 sessions. And, yeah. And before I knew it, I was on cross-sex hormones.
3 sessions?
I mean, that's a lot compared to a lot of people who don't have any,
I
right?
know. I'm acting shocked because it just blows my mind still, man.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
sick.
yeah.
It's sick.
I mean,
Affirmation therapy.
I mean, and I'll tell you something. Everybody was so willing to get me on that transgender train, but when I needed off to detransition, I didn't have a soul in the world.
Thank you for
Not
saying
one
that.
person.
Thank you.
Not one person. I walked that path alone.
Oh
And
my.
I'll tell you something. The reason I've come out 10 years later is because I saw all the blood in the Reddit forums of all the detransitioned females who don't have anybody or
Yeah,
any
buddy.
resources,
I
any
know.
support. They're being bullied and
Yep.
gaslighted on the way out by the transgenders. And it's just, I could not say anything. You know what I'm
Thank you.
saying?
No, I do. And it says a lot about you, Jan. It says that you have integrity, that you care, that you see things. Because you could just walk away and go hide somewhere. You know that, as I could. And as a transsexual,
Mhm.
I feel I'm in alignment with you. I'm disgusted that this is happening. It's just not so easy. And it should not be so easy to do. When I did it, it took years for me to get on testosterone. It took years for me to have mental health care. It took years. That's why I'm solid 32 years in my transition. But what's happening now is happening to you. I'm willing to stand up. I will not tolerate this, my friend, because not only does it hurt people like yourself, but it hurts me and it hurts
Hmm.
my actual place in this world. And people don't like me now. And people think that I'm part of the problem when that's just a shame that people would feel that about me. I'm here trying to fight against this. It's an ideology, Chance. It 100% is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. They're harmful transgender concepts and they permeated our society.
Oh
I
my
mean,
God. Oh
that's
my
the
God.
truth of the matter.
I know.
And, there's a lot of work to be done, but my main focus is working with the women, the females who are detransitioning
Yeah.
and being that bridge of support that I didn't have. I mean, look, when I detransitioned, first of all, I went off hormones cold turkey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dangerous.
And yes, very. And 3 weeks later, I started having these massive, massive mood swings. Very dangerous. I mean, so dangerous, I
So,
had to go to the hospital.
yeah.
And luckily, I
Yeah.
knew to go to the hospital, right? A lot
Yeah.
of people wouldn't have. And I wouldn't even be talking to you here today had I not gone to the hospital. It was
Wow.
that bad. And I got out of there. I was just a broken shell of myself. I didn't have one person to help me. Definitely not anybody in the transgender community.
No,
And no therapists either because they were all gender affirming.
that's right.
And so I literally left the city I was living in
Yeah.
so I could resume my life as a woman. But when I got to my new city, I checked into a women's residential recovery program and I stayed there 9 months. Okay.
Wow.
So this is how messed up I got by this
Mm.
whole gender affirming healthcare. Okay.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm speechless because I feel like crying. I'm not kidding. Like this should have never happened to you, Chan. Ever. Ever.
And and I'm not the only one, right?
I
I'm not
know.
the only
It's a
one.
shame.
I'm not the only one. And but like I said, I fit the narrative perfect. I grew up as a tomboy. I
Yep.
was frequently misgendered as a child,
Sure.
thought to be a boy. Everything I
Sure.
did had to do with boys
Yeah.
until I, reached puberty.
Yeah.
I also had an eating disorder, much like many trans men
That's
that
right.
I've heard of.
That's
I
true.
had body dysmorphia.
That's true.
And so, and I was an easy target for gender ideology.
A hundred percent.
And to your
Yeah.
and to your point about, um, feeling, like as though you're being represented by what's going on simply because
Yeah.
you're part of this alphabet. I feel the same way. This does not have anything to do with gays and lesbians.
Nothing.
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 It's
And
sick.
if you go to the human rights campaign, it might as well be called the transgender rights campaign, right?
I
Okay.
know, like fucking
And
everything, my friend. Everything is trans.
exactly. And it's horrible. And
Horrible.
people are getting hurt.
Yes.
Too many
Yes.
people are getting hurt. And too many people are getting their lives ruined forever. I mean,
Forever.
gender affirming healthcare, when it doesn't work out, it ruins your life. And not
Uh,
just for the moment, not just for
thank
the
you.
moment, for the rest of your life.
I can never go back to living as a woman. Not that I want to,
No,
but I made this choice
right.
at 30 years old. Let's be I'm 62.
Yeah.
At 30 years old, I made a choice that changed my life for the better. After years of therapy, after living as a gay woman, after living as a little tomboy, after living as a girl, living as a woman. I mean, I could go on and on. I lived half my life as a female and half my life as a male.
Mhm,
Well, I'm a woman. I'm still a female. And, I'm very honest
mhm,
about who I am. I'm a female. I'm not a man. I never will be
mhm.
a man. And that's the thing that these keep saying. You can change your sex. No, you cannot. So they're putting this in. I'm getting very mad for you and for all of you detransitioners. My heart goes out to all of you. I support you all. And I feel very connected to you because if you and I don't scream at the top of our lungs, then these children who they want to transition 10-year-olds, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. It's heinous. It's beyond heinous. I mean,
Wow.
consider this, like as a 40-year-old,
Mhm, mhm.
even at that point, I really do not have the conception that I have today of what it means to medically transition, the very permanence of it.
That's right.
And children cannot consent because they can't even think about, what they're doing, in college versus, when they're 30 years old or
That's
40
right.
years old
That's
and how
right.
it will affect them down the line. They even have not even had a chance to find out what it's like
Yeah.
to live in the other sex. And what's so wrong with going through puberty? Okay, we all went through puberty.
I went through
Okay,
puberty. Look at
I
me.
went through puberty. I went through it 3 times.
I mean, really, I'm here because of the kids and you guys. I won't tolerate it. I'm not part of that community. I just want everyone to
No.
remember that I am not. It is not my community. I feel more connected to the LGB, okay, than I ever
Mhm.
feel with the trans community. It's disgusting. It's not so it's also not the trans community I came from. So when I
No.
transitioned, all the Butch Dykes were mad at me, and I get it now looking back. But nobody wanted to transition as a Butch Dyke. They all wanted to be
Mm,
Butch Dykes. What changed all of a
yeah.
sudden that all of these Butch women, they call them trans masks, and they're all taking
Yeah.
testosterone, and it's all fucking facade, and they're all getting their boobs cut off. And then what happens? So let me ask you if it's personal or not, but did you do top surgery?
No, thank God. But I had an appointment 4 times.
Oh my God. Oh
I
my
did.
God.
I had
Imagine.
right before. I know. I don't need any more scars. I have enough. I am thank God I didn't do it. I mean, I
Yeah,
just
no
don't need
kidding.
any more scars. I have so many from the testosterone.
I know.
And to your
I
point, I
know.
just want to say, Buck, you know, I get it. This treatment is for transsexuals. Not everybody's a transsexual. Hello.
No, far from it. Because
No,
if that was the
it's a very
case,
sliver. Yeah.
it's so small and it's always been small and it's a mental disorder. I have a mental disorder and they keep trying to tell people it's a mental disorder. It's not normal
Yep.
for a woman to want to be a man or a man to want to be. It's not normal. It did help me. I move forward. I live my life happy, if that makes sense. But I will always advocate for not transitioning before I will advocate for. So this should be a last resort. They've moved
Yes.
it, right? They've moved that. They've altered it. Now it's the first resort. Like,
Right. And
what the hell?
that's right. And if you spend time in the detransition forums, it's an all too familiar story. We
Wow.
have these young females going to the doctor with some very serious mental health concerns
Yes.
and
Yes.
leaving out the door with a prescription for a sex change. Right?
Oh, I just
Right?
want to.
Am I right?
Oh, you're so.
I'm
Believe
right.
me, you're right. Planned Parenthood, who I fucking am after, they're part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
They literally no more abortions. So let's get on with transitioning
Mm-hmm.
kids. You can go in there at 16, right? And
Yeah.
do it's called informed consent, which basically says
Yeah.
you don't need a doctor's note. You know who you are.
Yeah.
How is that
Yeah.
legal, Chance? How is this
Yeah.
whole platform legal?
Well, the thing is that the providers, they don't really realize that little vial of testosterone has the power to ruin your life
Forever.
if you give it to the wrong person.
Forever. Forever.
Yeah, forever. Right. I mean, I'm a person that got to go living as their biological sex again, only because I had the sense or luck to get off hormones before it was too late. Okay. I actually had the clarity. I don't
That's
know
right.
how,
That's
but
right.
I realized that if I was to keep taking cross-sex hormones, I actually would be trapped in the wrong body.
That's
Okay.
a great point. That's a great
I
point.
realized that.
That's
And
right.
I realized I would live in a body that was not my own. And so that's why I went cold turkey. I could not put another drop of testosterone in my body because I thought I was being poisoned.
Tell me a little bit. Let's go back to this idea that you were on it. I think you were on it. You said 14 months. You were on testosterone.
Yeah, 14, 15,
Okay,
something
so
like that.
that's like a year and a half or something. So let's say, so here
Mm.
you are, you're doing it. When you started doing it, how did you feel? Like you were doing the right thing?
Yeah, I mean, I totally had bought into the gender ideology that I could pick my gender and I was assigned female at birth. Are you kidding me? Okay, whatever. Okay, I talk about this all the time. Like, no, that's not how it works. The doctor looks up your skirt, and that's how they know.
It's such
You know what I mean?
bullshit. Like
I,
they stole that from the intersex community, by the way, because in the intersex community, they have to assign you because your genitals are ambiguous. But the rest of us in the world are not assigned. We're male and female. Period.
yeah. So anyway, so I'm buying into the whole thing, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and I'm making big decisions. Like
yeah.
I broke up with my girlfriend. Anyway, it was the most important thing. Just like every transgender person I know, their identity becomes the most important thing.
Yes.
And
That's
it
right.
became that way for me too. And like
Yeah.
I said, I broke up with my girlfriend because she got in my way. Okay.
Yep.
And
That's right.
I regretted that for sure.
Yeah.
And but anyway,
Mhm.
yeah, it's
So
crazy.
you started taking the testosterone. Do you start feeling good? Like you were getting like
Yeah,
high from it?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I did feel that way. I mean, it was, I had to go through the menopause part, but once I got
Yeah.
on it,
Yeah.
I almost got I see how people get trapped on it because I
Totally.
was literally like my whole life was revolved around like that next chin hair. Okay.
I know.
So I'm waiting on the
Yeah.
clock for that next chin hair. And
Jesus.
depending on how long it takes for a female to sprout the chin hairs, depends on how long she might be on testosterone, right?
Totally.
So if you're not a person that can grow a heavy beard, you might stay on testosterone for like 5 years
That's
before you
right.
get the beard, right?
That's right.
And then on the seventh year, you're like, oh, this was a bad idea.
That's right.
It,
Great point.
it could be like that.
No, it's a
It could
lot
be
like
like
that.
that. But anyway, things are going good. The thing that kind of stopped the train was two things.
Okay.
The first thing was my grandmother got ill. Okay.
Okay.
Now I hadn't seen my grandmother in some time. She didn't know about any of these changes.
Mhm.
And so I tried to call her at her assisted living center
Mhm.
and I couldn't get a hold of her because they kept telling me that my grandmother didn't have a grandson. Okay. Okay.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I tried
Wow.
like for days to get hold of my grandmother. Now
Yeah.
I did have my friend read a letter to my grandmother I wrote, but I never got to talk to my grandmother. And then she died.
Oh
She
no.
died. I never got to talk to my grandmother again
I'm so
because they
sorry.
thought I was her grandson. Okay, so that was strike one. Strike two was that I was to get a double mastectomy. I had an appointment with Dr. Charles Garamoni in Florida, and I had everything set up. I was supposed to leave in 2 weeks,
Holy
and that's
shit.
when I started questioning everything,
Yeah.
like this concept that I could pick my gender or that I was assigned female at birth, and that all these weird concepts. I'm like, wait, and then that coupled with that realization that I was about to get trapped in the wrong body.
Wow, it's crazy how you full on started having this enlightenment on some level that you were not supposed. Garamoni is a scary surgeon. He was doing like 5 or 6 surgeries a day. Do you know that? A
Uh,
day.
I believe it. I
That is
believe it.
sick. That should be illegal because you're just basically just whipping off the tits like and just at 5 grand a piece, making so much money off these young kids. Wow.
Yeah.
You got enlightened. The universe went in your
Yeah, I got
brain.
lucky, but like I said, it was either, a stroke of luck or it was that
Yeah.
realization that I had. But I feel so fortunate because I didn't have much more time. I was on it about a year and a half. After 2 years, I noticed a lot of females, their facial structure changes,
Yep, that's right.
and even me, I look different than
I bet.
I mostly look like older and more tired. That's what I thought I looked like after testosterone
That's what it
treatment.
does to you. It
Uh,
ages you. It actually ages
yes,
you. It does. You
it
can
did
look at
me.
it does it to everybody because it's not a of course women have testosterone, but at a very small amount. You're putting a massive
Hmm.
amount of a hormone that is not supposed to be in your body. And if you don't do it
Hmm.
correctly, which nobody now does, we were very monitored back in the day. Now they're just
Hmm.
giving it to you and telling you to go on YouTube and learn how to shoot it. So these kids are injecting it. I saw a kid who got liver damage because she was putting so much of it in her body and didn't understand that that's not how it works. It's very slow. And it takes a lot of methodical, you know, it, that's what I keep
Yeah.
trying to tell everybody, Chance. This is not something for just anybody. This is a commitment.
No.
You have to commit to this. And
Yeah.
if you're not willing to commit to it, go for yourself and figure it out on your own. You're just a butch woman and you're just dealing with some stuff going on. What's wrong with being a butch woman?
Right. And that's kind of what I'm working towards is like working to support females so they don't feel like somehow it's better to look like a man or believe the fantasy that they are one. Right.
That's the thing is,
I
I'm
mean,
not a man. I've been on this for
I
32.
know.
I never changed my
I know.
sex ever.
No. Right. No. For you, I understand. And like Marcus Stibbs, Blair White, Buck
Yes,
Angel, I get it. Y'all
yes,
are like transsexuals. I
that's
mean, I get
right.
it. this is what the treatment is for, not for half the graduating high school class.
No, not all the women, butch or whatever. Some of these kids aren't even identifying as butch girls. They're just feminine. They're
No.
like really feminine girls, and they're like, I'm like, okay, there's something really messed up going on here.
Well, yeah, and it's not a thing. Testosterone is not a phase.
It's
Hello, it's
not.
not a phase.
No,
It's not makeup. You don't ever get to take it off. And I work with women in the detransition groups that have voices that sound like Johnny Cash.
I
They
know.
have receding hairlines of a 45-year-old man.
I hate
And they
it
are never, ever going to have a good quality of life
ever.
because, quite honestly, their quality of life is proportional to the amount of gender affirming healthcare they receive.
Oh my God. I am at my wit's end with this. So first off, thank you for working with these young people. It means a lot to me, Chance. And obviously I'm there for you, whatever you guys need from me, or I'm trying to amplify your voices. It's why you
Hmm.
reaching out to me and giving me this amazing interview, and I can put it on my platform, and a lot of people will see it. We're making some headway. I will tell you by
Hmm.
you and I having these conversations and us putting, they hate me. You know, the it's a fake community, by the way. It's cult like.
Hmm.
They hate me. But
Hmm.
do you think I give a shit if anyone hates me? You know what I care about, Chance? I care about you. I care about you. I care about these young kids who are cutting their boobs off at 15 years old. How sick. And then 10-year-olds taking puberty blockers, like telling them they can change into a boy. We're lying.
Hmm.
We're actually
Yeah,
lying. But how did,
it's it,
I guess what?
yeah, it's right up there with I hate to say it, but we've had some very dark periods in history where
Yeah,
similar things have been done, and this was
that's
right
right.
up there with it. And
That's right.
there's how did this happen? Well, it's been happening for years, for one thing.
That's right.
And the other
That's
thing
right.
is that the main friends to the detransitioners are the Christians and the conservatives.
Yes.
But anytime they say anything,
Yes.
well, they're labeled transphobic and shut down as right wing extremists. I'm like, I told somebody the other day, I'm like, I'm sure I've been labeled as the right
Me
wing
too.
extremist by now.
Me
you
too.
know? I mean, it's like, whatever.
I don't care. Call me whatever you
I
want,
don't,
my friend.
I know. I mean,
Don't
I
care.
flat out have I have my own YouTube channel. And I flat out had an episode where I said that if you get called transphobic, don't worry about it. It's
That's
an
right.
overused word
That's
that
right.
most often means you simply do not agree with
That's right.
transgender concepts.
That's
Okay.
all it means. I don't agree with it. So that's why they try to silence me, or that I'm
Me
old,
too.
or that I don't know anything. It's like, bitch, I've been doing this for 32 years. You want to know who knows something? You're all wrong, and you're totally doing a damage. They've destroyed all the work that the transsexual community did. I wanted to
Yes.
transition to live in the world, friend. I wanted to live amongst the people.
Hmm.
I don't want to be trans. That's not what I'm not trans. I'm a
Yeah.
woman who wants to look like a man. I change my appearance.
Yeah.
I walk the world that way. It's real simple. The world likes me. People who don't like me are trans. That should tell you everything about the whole movement. And the fact that
Yeah.
they indoctrinated you. You know that. They
Yeah, they
indoctrinate.
did. Oh, I
They did.
know. I know. I was indoctrinated by the affirming therapist. I was indoctrinated
Disgusting.
by the affirming doctor and also YouTube, right?
Oh my,
Don't
and
don't ever
YouTube.
don't yeah don't underestimate the power of social media to indoctrinate your child into the transgender world.
Oh my God. I see it
Yeah.
all. So I get suppressed on YouTube. You know, my channel's growing, but I get a lot of stuff gets suppressed if I talk about this or I talk about certain weirdo
Yeah.
trans women who are really just cross dresser fetishist fucking pedos who are just using the
Yeah.
trans. I get shut down all the time because it's
Yeah.
weird. It's as if they want these kids to transition or, don't, but Chance, let me just say this to you. If you don't know it already, it's going to change. There are it's
Yeah.
being it's being it's being sort of exposed, if that makes sense. It is. And
Yeah.
why I
Yeah.
value you as a person who's willing to step up. You don't have to. I keep saying it. You never had to do this, but here you are. It's your integrity. You're like, why should I let someone else get sucked into this shit?
Yeah, but it took me 10 years to get where I'm at. I detransitioned 10 years ago
Doesn't
and I've been
matter.
a mess.
Doesn't
But I'll
matter.
tell you something. Yeah, and in that 10-year period after I moved to my new city after
Okay.
detransitioning,
Yeah.
I just wanted to be a lesbian again. Okay.
Totally.
And so, like, lesbians aren't really down on trans guys a lot of times. Yeah. So
They should.
I didn't really,
I get
I
it.
never mentioned it. I never mentioned it.
Yeah.
So over a 10-year period, I probably told 5 people
Yeah.
that I had even had that experience
Yeah.
before I publicly came out.
Well, because you had to find your way, and then I don't blame gay women for not wanting to be around trans men because they're infiltrate. When I transitioned, when I lived as as a gay woman, of course they didn't want me around. What did I do? You think I forced myself? I said, "See you later." You're right. I'm becoming a dude. I'm not going to hang out with you lesbians. You like women. You don't like fucking dudes. Now all of a sudden, these
Yeah.
trans men are calling gay women like bigots and whatever because they don't want to date them. You're a dude now. They don't want to date you. You're
And and yes, and I take exception with trans men in terms of their treatment of women,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Many of them play girls sports, many of them play college sports. I've seen one of them stand up for what is right.
Because they're full of shit. That's why. It's all,
That
the trans movement is very narcissistic, by the way. It's about me, me, me. I'm trans. I'm non-binary. You know what? When we used to transition, we didn't want anybody to know we were trans, right? And all of a sudden, it's
right.
this thing like, and how dare you transition? And I remember back in the day, Chance. I remember at I think it was Smith College, which was an all-female school, and I
Mhm.
remember that there started to be trans men transitioning, and I was so pissed. I'm like, and then that the women there were like, no, you got to leave now. You can't be here. And then
Yeah.
the trans men were like, we belong here. And I'm like, no, you don't belong there. You're transitioning to be a man. What? It
Mhm.
started that 10, 15 years ago. I saw this
Yeah.
whole fucking movement start.
Yeah, I mean, and we've been in it because we're older, right?
That's
I
right.
mean,
That's
I
right.
was a lesbian, and then I
That's
was
right.
introduced to this later in life, and but yeah, it's out of hand. It really is, and
So 10 years
um,
ago, 10 years, you've been detransitioned 10 years. Are there any health problems that you're still dealing with uh, during this time?
I think the most noticeable thing to people is like probably my voice.
Maybe.
Um,
Yeah.
I it's
Oh,
not as bad as some, but
no,
and
no.
most of the time I pass as a female. But
Yeah.
but I have recordings of it before. I mean, it's definitely like 5 octaves lower,
Lower.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely lower.
Yeah.
And most of my scars, I would say, are on the inside. If I had to say to you, like, what that felt like, that detransitioning period initially, if you can imagine, like, 3 nervous breakdowns stirred in with complex PTSD
Wow.
and thrown on chance, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the weight of the world were on my shoulders, and I was so remorseful. I'm like, how could I ruin my life like this? And
Mm,
and the transgenders, they make you take responsibility.
I
They
know.
say, they complain to me
Yeah.
all the time. They're like, you need to stop talking and take responsibility. You knew. That's what they say to me. You knew.
You didn't know shit. You got what's called affirmation therapy in 3 sessions. How would you know? You're supposed to go through years and years. My therapist pushed against me, and I was the first person to do this in Los Angeles 32 years ago, right? There was no internet.
Yeah,
There was nothing. My
yeah,
therapist was like, "What does it mean to be a man?" She was just like, until eventually we kind of
yeah.
figured it out. But my point being, you can't even. I don't care what you're dealing with. You cannot figure that out in 3 sessions. Okay? You think you can figure out you
No.
want to be a man in 3 sessions? So I'm so pissed off, Chance, that I want these therapists who are to be held accountable. Number one,
Hmm.
the people who are
Hmm.
doing these surgeries need to be held accountable. Everyone needs to be losing
Yeah.
their license and never ever be able to practice medicine again. That's my ultimate goal here.
Yeah, well, I've said it more than one time in my YouTube channel. It's like it's really like this. People who know right from wrong
Yeah,
would not perform experimental sex change operations even on their family cat or dog.
that's
Okay,
right. That's
they
right.
wouldn't even, not let
Nope.
alone an innocent, precious child of God.
I
Okay,
know.
that's what
I
good.
know.
And for people, listen, Bob, for people who do not know right from wrong, they can never ever be allowed to be in charge again. Right?
Ever. That's what I'm trying to say. fuck this
ever,
slap on the
ever.
they give that.
Mhm.
So there's this one surgeon, I think his name is Dr. Crane, and he was from San Francisco, and he did penis surgeries for female to males, right,
Mm,
which is a whole other mess. So I have a friend, Scott
yeah.
Nugent, who got that surgery
Yeah,
done.
Scott.
Yeah, Scott's
Yeah.
a great friend of mine, and they fucked his life up, and he had to have like 5 different surgeries. His whole hand is fucked up.
Mhm.
He's a complete mess, and and he screams at the top of his lungs, and they keep trying to suppress his voice. But anyway, that doctor lost his license in California. Guess what that guy did? He went to Texas and got another license and is doing the same. How is that even possible? How?
It's the same thing with like teachers who have relations with their students, get
Bam,
fired and move to a new school.
bam, bam. It's
Yeah.
out of
There,
control.
and we have to speak up because I mean, for me, I made a video. My first video I made got 30,000 views in like 3 weeks,
Wow.
and from people all over the world. And the
Wow.
reason it got so many views is because, um, you know, I was using my voice,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and other people are thinking the same thing, but they don't have the privilege of using their voice because, as we said, they
Yes.
get shut down as transphobes and right
That's
wing
right.
extremists.
That's
Now I
right.
have a unique perspective because I'm actually a victim, right?
Yeah.
I'm a
That's
victim
right.
of gender affirming healthcare.
You're a
And
victim.
so
Yeah.
my voice needs to be heard because
That's right.
we have thousands of YouTube channels from, transgender men who celebrate their bravery, and they all do the same videos, right?
Yep.
Here's my first testosterone shot. Here's me swimming in the lake for the first time. Here's me losing my hair. Whatever.
Whatever.
It's all the same.
That's
It's
right.
all the same. But
That's right.
where are the detransitioner stories, right?
That's right.
And I also get criticized because I don't play both sides of the story. Like, I'm not here to tell your story. You tell your own story. Get
Right
your own
on.
YouTube channel. I'm here to tell my story.
Yeah, fuck off. I'm totally with you, friend. That's why I started my YouTube channel, because I'm not going to be a part. I'm not going to get lumped in with those crazies. I'm not like that. I will not tolerate this fucking behavior. So you're
No.
right. All I saw was trans men talking about how amazing. It sucks for me. I'll tell you, Chance, it sucks for me because I really do stand in this sort of middle space. But if I have to choose a side, I'm going to choose the side of women and kids. I'm going to always choose that side because I'm still a biological female, and I will not ever let that go. But also, I give a shit about. I have a kid. I'm a parent. I have a kid. I
Yeah.
keep him away out from all of this nonsense because I don't want him to get indoctrinated into this idea that you can change your sex or whatever, which is complete bullshit. But that being said, that was a great thing you just said. Start your own YouTube channel. I started my own because I
Yeah.
didn't see a person like me saying, except for Marcus, right? Marcus was doing it. But he's a young person. So I think a young voice, an older voice, detransition voices, we can push back on these guys saying, look at me, like I'm so happy and great. Yeah, okay, let's see how you feel in 10 years. And let's hope that you feel great. But how do we know?
Right. Yeah. Because testosterone, even the most successful people, whatever, the influencers, the reality is that
Yes.
most of them are looking kind of old and they've
Yeah,
lost their hair
that's
and
right.
they're probably on their way to incontinence, right?
Oh,
That's the truth of the matter
don't get me started.
that nobody's talking about, right?
I talk about it all the time, but my voice gets suppressed. I was the first recorded case. I hate saying the first because it's like not a competition, but you know what I mean. Because of my long term, I got atrophy in my vaginal and my uterus and my cervix fused. I almost died, and I put it out there, and
Mm-hmm.
they literally called me a liar. The trans male community called me a liar. I'm like, why would I lie about that? I'm trying to help you all. So you see, they don't want to know the bad part of it. There's a lot of bad
Yeah.
things that can come from this if you don't understand how to understand testosterone and the effects of this
Right. And
medication.
to your point, we never, ever, ever hear in the detransition forums that I had, so much counseling, and this really was a last resort.
That's that's right. It's never the last resort now. It's
Never.
always the first resort, which is sickening.
And so
And you
and
know,
so the yes,
yeah, go on.
yes, yes. And this term gender affirming healthcare, you would think it would include therapy, wouldn't you?
It used to, but these
Yeah.
wing nuts, here's the other thing I want to ask you, Chance. Do you notice the majority of the people who are voicing pro trans healthcare, pro trans kids, for me, what I notice is it's trans women who are males. They're the ones who have the biggest voices. They're the ones, but the majority of the people who are transitioning tend to be females to males. In my
Yeah.
opinion, it's what I see.
I think that's true, and I think that's backed up by some studies too, like Abigail Shrier, like her observations about, the social contagion going on with girls in this country.
That's
And
right.
so
That's
I,
right.
I, I really watch her work,
She's great.
and I couldn't agree more. You know, I feel myself as a person, I've already said this, I feel like I need to find ways to connect to these young people to let them know
That's right.
that it really would be better if you worked out your issues
That's
on
right.
therapy, and it took pride in,
That's right.
how you came. If you can, I mean, we understand if you can't, but it should be the last resort, right, Buck? The last resort.
But also what also should be mandatory is a year, at least a year of therapy. Also, I talk to a lot of parents who come to me and say, Buck, my kid is 13 and says they're trans. I go, no, they're not. They're not trans at all. Because I'll show you the difference. I do not identify as trans. I identify as a man. Okay. All of a sudden there's
Mm-hmm.
this new identity choice of trans. That says to me, you're not
Mm-hmm.
trans. It says to me that you
No.
want to be trans. And then it's an identity choice, right? You see the difference? Like I didn't transition
Yeah.
to be trans. What is that? So kids are
Yeah.
being sucked into this identity because of the internet and TikTok and all this other. And I tell parents this, and in the 5 times that I have told parents this, I said, take your child phone, take it away. I don't care if they cry to you. I don't give a shit. Get them out of their peer group, okay? Get them to the
Mm-hmm.
mountains, to the beach. Get them into a camp somewhere that has nothing to do with LGBTQIA, pee pee poo poo. And then literally the kid came back. It was like they were
Yeah.
deprogrammed. And I'm telling you, it's an
Yeah.
actual thing. Abigail's a really good friend of mine, by the way. And she's
Okay.
right. It's a social contagion. These kids are hurting.
Yeah.
They need love. They need
Yeah.
therapy. They need to be told it's okay to be a masculine girl or whatever the fuck you are.
Yeah, or just be a girl,
Or just be a
and like you
girl.
said, yeah, some of these people, you're like, how can you be a man because you don't really have any masculine characteristics, right?
None. They're just like
Yeah,
girls.
right.
And all of a sudden they're like,
Yeah,
I'm trans. Like, what?
and they are messing themselves up. They're going
Wow.
into adulthood being handicapped. I mean, you've got, you see this very beautiful woman, and she speaks and sounds like a transgender woman.
Yeah,
Everybody thinks she's a transgender
I
woman.
know.
That's how she has to live the rest
Rest
of
of her
her life.
life. That's right.
And that if that ain't a scar or a handicap, I don't know what is. And that's not to be rude to any transgender women out
No,
there.
of course
It's
not.
just that if you're trying to be a woman, you don't want to be a transgender woman, right?
But
You want to be
also,
recognized as a female.
let me tell you, I've amassed a large population of trans women who are like me and Blair and Marcus. They can't
Yeah,
speak out because, the community's so hateful and they might lose their space. And
yeah,
I get it. I get it. I don't want anybody ever to put themselves in danger or of a space where they lose their
yeah.
job or lose all of that. But that being
Okay.
said, you would be shocked how many people agree with you and I, but it's hard for them to speak up. But I think by
Yeah,
you and I doing these things, we're showing that they can start to speak up. And I will guarantee you,
yeah,
Chance, mark my words, it is going to happen. People are starting to step up, and I
yeah.
these kids, I don't care what an adult does, okay. And not to say because you made the choice of an adult, it still wasn't right. You didn't get to, you were not given the right path. You were given the wrong path. And even adult can
Right.
make a wrong choice because you weren't given
Yeah.
therapy. You were given hormones. What the fuck?
Well, children can't consent, right? They can't. And in this
No,
country, an adolescent is a children, right? An adolescent is a child until they're 18 years of age. That's our
that's right.
cutoff. Now, I'll plug for young adults too, who I also don't think can understand the very permanence of medical transition. But
That's
let's
right.
just leave it at 18. That's what we have right now.
That's
You
right.
cannot listen to your child and think that you can't go back later and say to your child, but you said when you were 14 you were trans. Don't
Wow.
blame me,
Can you
right?
imagine?
You were supposed to be the adults, right? Who are not
Parent.
being adults here? Yes.
parent.
You're the adult. The child is not the adult, right? No.
Well, we have a weird thing happening now where all of a sudden the kids get whatever they want, or you're a bad. Like, are you kidding me? If my kid doesn't listen to me, you're off the PlayStation, dude. Don't you dare talk to me with that tone of even a tone of voice. I won't tolerate that because I'm trying to set him up for the future and to be respectful. Because when
Mhm.
you're respectful, you get more out of life. When you're a dick and you come with an attitude, oh, good luck. So even the little pushback I get from him, I'm all over it. I might seem like a hard ass dad, if that makes sense, but no, it's my job as a parent to give him these skills to be able to walk the world as a healthy human being. And when you give a kid, the kid
Right.
says, "I feel like a cat," and you're buying him cat ears and a litter box, you're insane as a parent. You're totally insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. It's just unheard of. And then the biggest crime really is that, so kids, adolescents, sometimes, uh, they're feeling different, they're feeling weird,
Yeah.
and so they're actually threatening, in some cases, to have they're not given gender affirming
Uh,
healthcare. And I'm like, okay, if they are at that point, they need to go to the mental hospital and
that's
be evaluated for mental illness.
There you go.
Okay,
Not give
you
them
don't. Your
hormones.
gender affirming healthcare is not a band aid. It is not Tylenol. It is not an antibiotic. It will fuck you up if it's given the wrong person.
Most people, it's the wrong person. Okay, most.
Hello, hello, because they're not transsexuals like
They're
you,
not.
right?
They're not. Not.
Right. If you're a transsexual, you're like, yes, this is me. We have people in the detransition forums that have even been on T for like 10 years and they're detransition. Yeah.
See, that's my point. There are kids
Yeah.
now who've been on for 10 years. I've never thought of turning around, ever. It's never been that
Yeah.
space for me. So why has it been
Yeah.
for me so positive and so uplifting for me? Changed my life. Sobriety, got out of drugs, prostitute, all of it I
Yeah.
stopped. You know what I mean? Because I had a
Yeah.
trajectory. So that's what I keep saying to people. It's not that I don't want somebody to have what I have. Of course I do. But if you
All
look
right.
at what's happening today, these people aren't like this. And you can't
No.
evaluate this mental problem without giving a long time to understand what you're getting yourself into. And how many people?
Right.
So, are you in a group? Like, is there like a detransition group or something?
Yeah.
Where is it?
There's 54,000 members in it. In Reddit. Reddit.
All right. I hope
54,000 by
everyone
54,000.
did. Everyone just hear that? 54,000.
Now, this group is defined as the sisters, the
Whatever. Who give a
transitioners,
shit?
detransitioners, and people who are questioning. Right now, there's
I don't
54,000. And
care.
I'll tell you, yeah, it's huge. It's huge, right? It's huge.
I mean,
It's
my
huge.
mind is blown. I heard that. Do you know? I heard that before, and I was like, what? But I just got it
Yeah,
from the actual source. You're the real factual source to me. And
yeah,
how dare we deny this is happening? How?
yeah.
Okay, so the next question I want to ask you, Chance, how can this channel, help you? Other than putting your voice here, because this is going to be a big deal for people to see this. But I also want to, should I put a link to this? Or is it like a private group, or how do people sort of get
Yeah, like,
involved?
I mean, if the group is only for detransitioners,
Right,
so,
but there's going to be people who
that,
watch, a lot of detransitioners watch my channel, or maybe thinking about
yeah, so,
detransitioning. Mhm.
right. So, two resources I could recommend is
Okay,
for detransitioners, definitely the Reddit detrans forum.
okay, okay,
That's a good place to start.
okay.
Now, I have a YouTube channel called Detransjoy,
Great,
which is a great
great,
detransitioner resource.
great.
I'm also working on putting together services for detransition women.
Excellent.
Um, right now, I'm doing like peer support.
Great.
So if somebody needs extra support, they can reach out to me. I'm a certified peer support specialist,
Excellent.
um,
Excellent. Beautiful.
so I'm giving that. I'm also trying to work on, the idea of setting up groups,
Yes.
like kind of group
Yes.
therapy.
Yes.
And then eventually I want to start a reconstruction fund. Okay.
Great.
So I know the transgenders have raised $2 million for their gender affirming healthcare to give that out to people who want surgeries. I thought, well, surely we can put together a few points to put people back together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
last thing I'm working on is, this is the big vision,
Okay.
is I want to buy a house and have kind of a recovery
Recovery
retreat
center.
center where
Right.
detransition women can come and,
Right.
recover if they need like residential.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it so much. I got sober 30 so years ago, and I went to a recovery home, and it was the best thing. And it was of a woman's recovery home. And it really did help me a
But
lot to have that sort of
yeah,
space around other. So I remember early on this interview, you told me that you went to a recovery home and you lived there for like 9 months. Is that correct?
yeah,
And that,
yeah. So
and
Mm. I was in a similar probably home to what you went to. I was
right,
with Lutheran Social Services,
right,
and there were women recovering from substance abuse
right,
issues, mental health concerns,
right.
um, a variety of things.
Yeah.
Now, I did not talk about my transgender experience
Okay.
there. I focused on mental health concerns and substance abuse.
Great,
I'm also a sober person.
great,
Um,
great.
I have a long history with addiction and sobriety. So
Yeah, me too. So that's great. But
yeah,
you care enough about yourself to understand that. But that's why I think recovery spaces are so great. Also, people who have the same experiences, especially the
yeah,
detrans, a lot of them feel alone and they feel so. The ones
well, yeah,
I've probably interviewed, God, I don't know, 100 maybe. So many of them I've interviewed, and they all have one, like a couple of things are all the same. They didn't get therapy. If they knew what this
yeah,
was about, they would have never done it. And number three, they
yeah,
have no community anymore. And it's so
yeah,
community. I'm such a community oriented person. I also feel at a loss because I don't have a community anymore. I don't have there's no
yeah,
that's not my community. That's why I do feel more connected to the LGBT community because I have a ton of lesbian friends and a ton of
yeah.
gay men friends. And so I always feel so like that just feels more community oriented for me. So I
Well,
think creating a space for you is so important.
yeah, and I think as more detransitioners speak out, we're kind of knowing who each other is. And,
Right.
like on my channel, like you probably don't know this, but I had a whole episode on you who I aligned with. I said, this is one of our allies, Buck Angel.
Thank you. I
So,
appreciate that. I
and
appreciate
I
that.
did the same with who was I saying? Riley
Riley Gaines,
Gaines,
she's awesome.
fighting
She's
for
awesome.
women's rights. She's,
Great.
and other people anyway. So just,
Sure.
trying
Thank
to
you.
get the alliances together,
We have
and
to. You and I
we
have
have
to.
to.
Whether or not me and
Yes,
you have different ideas of things, that doesn't matter. Put it over here, friend, because we have to care about these young people. We have to care about women. We
yeah,
have to care about gay women. This is a sick movement. It's a misogyny movement. I also believe it's a
yeah.
homophobic movement. I mean, they are
Well, it
transing
is.
gay
Yeah,
kids. They are. There's
Y-
you got.
yeah. We don't have any more lesbians. There's no lesbians. I mean, I asked my niece. Okay, listen to this. I asked my niece who just graduated from high school. I said to her, I said, how many of your peers identify as a lesbian? And she could not name one. Rather, a whole slew of little trans people.
I'm telling you,
I'm
something
not
is
kidding
wrong.
you. Something's in the fluoride, man.
Yes,
Something's in the
something.
fluoride.
No, it's as if they don't want to be gay. It's as if they want to be like it's bad to be gay or
Yeah.
something. I really, I
Well,
see it.
I see it too in the trans men. I see how much they just can't even accept anything to do with being female. And
Nothing.
I was the same way.
Yeah,
I don't know why I had so much shame about being a girl or a
yeah,
woman, but
yeah,
I had to work on that. I'm
yeah,
like, why did I think it was better to somehow be a man when I was transitioning? Why did
yeah.
I think that was better? Why
Interesting.
didn't, and truthfully, there wasn't anything really wrong with me. So if I went into gender affirming care with like say 5 problems,
Yeah.
I came out with 355.
Oh
Okay.
my God, that's so
Oh yeah,
profound. That is just profound what you just said. And
I did.
that's the thing we have to look at. What are
Yeah.
these young girls? Because we know the majority of people who are transitioning are girls, not boys. It's girls.
Yes. Yes.
So that means something to me. That doesn't mean that's not right. Because if it was true, wouldn't it be a level playing field? Wouldn't just as many boys be transitioning as girls?
Well, yeah. If any of this was true, it would have happened when we grew up, right? We didn't
That's
have any
right.
trans people when I grew up. We didn't have gay people, really. I mean, they're closeted, but
Yeah, but
you know,
that's different.
we didn't have a concept of trans kids. And you know what?
That's
Most
right.
people grew up just fine.
Just fine. That's right.
You
And
know,
when I
I
did
did.
it,
I grew up in yeah. I mean, for me, I grew up in my biological body just fine.
yep,
I learned to
yep,
just be a different kind of woman.
that's
I'm like,
right.
no, I don't look like, somebody from Vogue magazine. I'm not that kind of woman.
That's
You
right.
know, I'm,
That's right.
for what I am, I learned for what I am, I learned to say, this is attractive for what I am.
That's why we need you so bad right now, because we need to have some of these young kids stop feeling this idea that their body is bad or that they look bad or that they're not, like it's not okay to be a woman. So that's why your
Yeah.
presence is so important, because it's true. Sometimes representation does matter, and sometimes visually seeing all types of women out there is important. And this should be the
Right.
last resort. This should never be presented to even a 20-year-old. I'll tell you, Chance, even a 20-year-old, I don't think
Yeah.
can make this
Mm.
choice. No,
No, no, no, I don't agree. I agree
nope,
with you. And
nope.
I see these trans guys go on the internet and say, "I'm I'm speaking out today because I want to be the trans representation that I didn't have when I was growing up." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Okay, what makes you trans is the fact that you take cross-sex hormones and then mutilate surgery. Okay, what
Totally.
about that? What about that is appealing to a young kid?
No, you should never be talking to kids like that, ever,
No,
ever.
no,
I never
no, no,
did.
no,
And for
no.
anyone out there who says, well, Buck, you did. No, I did not. I never spoke to young kids, ever. As you know, I was in the adult entertainment business. I've always been
Yeah,
away from children. Everything I've done has been in an
yeah,
adult space. I don't think children, I've never said children should do this. My whole time I've been in a public space as a public figure, never have I advocated for young people to do this, ever.
no.
So, as
And think about this. As an adult transgender, how fair is it for you to project your issues, your childhood trauma, or your insecurities, or whatever on
that's right.
kids you don't even know?
You don't even know. That's
They're
so
other
true.
people's children.
That's
They're other
right.
people's children.
That's right.
Most trans people don't even have children,
That's right. You're
right?
exactly right. They don't. So how are they even saying trans kids? Oh, when people say, well, Buck, you are a trans kid. Oh, that makes me so mad. No, I was not. I was a tomboy. Okay. And I had an
Yeah,
awesome,
there
by
you
the
go.
way, friend, I had an awesome childhood. I had a beautiful,
Yeah,
I did not have a bad childhood. I had a beautiful childhood. I got to be
yeah,
a tomboy and play sports with all the other dykes. And it was amazing. I had not, it just, I
yeah,
struggled alcoholism and all of those things. But it's not about me. But that being said, I'm telling you that's why I can tell you it's false. And they're actually even creating stories about other people. Like telling me I was a
yeah,
trans kid is so rude and disrespectful to my own space. Like, how dare you say that? I was not.
yeah.
I was
Right.
not.
Right. Me neither. I mean, I was constantly misgendered. I kid you not.
Totally.
I
I believe
ran
it.
around the neighborhood with no shirt on until I was like 7
Right
because
on.
nobody noticed. you
Right
know,
on. Oh my God, I had
and
those
that's
days.
what I was very good at baseball, and I played on the boys
Right
baseball
on.
team.
Right
And
on.
every single check mark, that I could be trans, and I'm not. I'm
You're
not trans.
not.
I'm not.
Oh my God. And now we have men in women's sports. Like, care if you're trans identified. Make your own league. I'm done. I am so done with this. It's
Yeah.
misogyny beyond belief. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
sad.
And and it's the thing. It's like. I don't know. And it's this
Sad.
conception that trans women are women. They're
No, they're
not.
not.
Okay. They're not. They're trans women.
They're men who want to. I'm a woman. I'm a female who wants to be a man. I'm not a man. I don't understand what's so hard about that. We never, as transsexuals,
Yeah.
ever, ever, ever denied our biology, ever. These people are
Yeah.
trying to disrupt like actual society. They're doing very dangerous stuff that is
We're,
so scary.
Look, I feel like we're in the dark ages. This is
We
something out
are.
of like, what was that one show what was that show on HBO with
Oh,
the,
was it?
the Queen?
Yeah, that's right. I know what you're talking about. Oh, it's
You know what
huge
I'm
hit.
talking about?
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it! I have a
Where
brain fart.
then they're in the religious period, but it's like this is like the opposite.
Totally. It's so insane. Oh my God. It feels like it's getting worse. But sometimes things have to go all the way down, that's like when in sobriety, right? You have to hit bottom in order to realize you got a problem, and you got to either take care of it or you're going to die. So on some
Yeah.
level, we're hitting the bottom. It's coming. The
Yeah.
56,000 people, I don't care if they're not all detrans. The fact that 56,000 people have interest in this group says a lot to me. A lot.
Well, and the other thing too is that there's other groups too. Like a lot of people don't hang out in the Reddit group because it's public. So you have the Discord servers. That's where all
Discord.
the real people hang out. And then you have
Wow.
the people who just want to move on with their lives. They don't want
Yeah.
anything to do with this
Yeah.
transgender business anymore.
I know.
So I mean,
Shit.
I did an estimate about the number of people that are
Hmm.
detransitioners, and it's huge.
Hmm.
And
Huge. I know.
but
Every
I
day
wanted to get
somebody
back to
else comes
something.
out.
Yeah, it's but I think we need to align, and like I said, I'm gonna do what I
Yeah.
can to
I
elevate
agree.
your voice. And like I said, if you can
I will elevate
maybe
yours.
mention my
Everything.
website and my
Everything.
YouTube channel.
Everything.
And
Everything.
if anybody wants me to be on their podcast, I'll do it. I'll do
I'll
it.
get you on more
And
podcasts for sure. I'll get you on some
okay,
more
yeah,
podcasts. Yeah. I'll elevate your voice
because
100%.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I've already decided, you know what? I'll take one for the team, I will. Because
That's
this
because
needs
you
to be said.
care. No,
This needs to be said.
you're not taking one
This
for the
needs to be
team.
said.
You have integrity. You care. You're doing the work that needs to be done in order for us to get back to a level space. And that's why transsexuals will align with you, because we want the same thing. We don't want this happening. It's
Right.
horrifying. It's just
It is
horrifying.
horrifying.
It
What I'm saying is, I'm not worried about like getting fired from my job or anything like that. I mean, I'm only telling the truth.
That's right. That's right.
Related to my experience, and
That's right.
people need to hear it because I'm
That's
not
right.
the only one.
Oh, far from
There's
it, which is sad.
thousands of people, females that have been before me and after me.
Well, you
Okay,
know what's so
because
sad?
consider
Sorry. Yeah, go on.
no, like I said, consider I did this 10 years ago, so we had all those people then,
That's
and
right.
every year since then.
You know what's so sad is the media. Journalism is so disgusting right now. They just say so many wrong truth. Chloe
Yeah,
Cole, I'm sure you know Chloe. She's a friend of mine, and
yeah,
they did a LA Times did a thing that made her look like
I
so bad. I'm like,
know.
what? How dare you? This girl who I'm friends with
Yeah,
struggled. She's screwed, and she missed her breasts, and I can't remember. I think she
she's
did
just a child.
child,
She's
a
she's just
child.
a young baby. I mean, she might be 20 now or whatever,
No,
but
she's a
this happened
baby.
to her when she was 12. And just
Unbelievable.
because she's 20 now, she's still a baby. Leave her alone.
Oh my God, I feel very protective of her, and I can't stand these
Yeah,
journalists, gross places that are making it look as if, like what you said earlier, it's your
yeah.
fault. It's not your fault. It's the fault of the system. How dare you?
And those, right, and those are the comments I get. Like, why are you hurting it for everybody else? I'm like, what are you talking about?
I get the same. They're like, oh, Buck, you're pulling up the ladder. I go, pull it. I'm securing the ladder. There's a big difference between pulling it up and saying, oh, I don't want anybody else ever to transition. Never have I said that. I want people who
Yeah,
need to I said, I'm securing it. I'm bolting it to the fucking wall because right now
yeah,
it's falling. Like, what is wrong
yeah.
with all you? That's because they're fake trans people. They're not real. They're not real trans people.
Well, honestly, Buck, I'll tell you something. Like, no more than I would have a conversation with somebody about whether the earth was flat. I'm not going to have a conversation with most transgenders who
Right
believe
on.
that
Right on.
there's other genders, okay?
Yeah, and you really and men can get pregnant, and women and men
Yeah,
have uteruses, and I mean, what? What are you talking about, you morons? You're also, that hurts us as our health. We have to go to the
yeah,
gynecologist. We have to go to these things that are female. So when you don't connect to
yeah,
your female body, you're really an idiot because you're asking for
yeah.
problems when you say, I'm a man who got pregnant. Well, whatever, dude. You're a female who wants to be a man who got pregnant. You're not a man who's pregnant. No, sorry.
All right, it's not possible. It's not possible. And you need not put tampons in the boys' bathroom.
I'm just like, what's happening? Every trans man oh my God, every trans man I know would flip out if they walked into the men's room and their tampons. That's what I'm telling you. No, 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 no. That's
Yeah.
dysphoric beyond belief. When I see a tampon in the
Yeah.
man's room, I'm like, anyway,
Yeah.
Chance,
Yeah.
you're great. You're great. I really feel very connected to you. Thank you, buddy. I do appreciate you so much. And thank you for being honest and stepping up even after your horrible experience. And I think people here, please leave Chance your beautiful comments that you always do. I really value that. And it really helps create the conversation. And I'll put all of Chance's stuff where you can reach her. I'm so sorry. Her, and also where you can find out more about the D-Trans group. I'm all fucked up by pronouns now. You know that, Chance. It fucked me all up, man. I'm just like, what? So,
Yeah.
so with that, thanks, Chance. I do appreciate you. You have anything last words you want to say before we move on?
Just thanks for having me, Buck. I really support your work and really admire everything you're doing.
Thank
So
you, friend.
keep on trucking, my
Right
friend.
on, friend. Together, we're going to make this world normal again. So I'll see all you guys on the live on Wednesday. And thanks so much for joining us today. And push this out so that we can see it.